All right. So our topic for this month is working with youth, which was requested by someone last month. So I don't have a lot to share on that. I'd love for it to be kind of a conversation, and hear about your experiences, and also about things that you wish you had that we could help with related to working with youth. If there are certain resources that we could provide, I would love to hear those ideas. But I will share what we have already on the website in terms of the activities and the lesson plans and the curricula that we have for working with different age groups. So that is the plan for today. But perhaps we can start with, I don't know that you two know each other, so maybe we could just do a quick, which local phonology program you're from, where you're at, and anything you want to share about stuff you're working on right now?
Go ahead.
Oh, you're muted.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. You're muted.
Interpretation. I have loud dogs that are around my feet right now. So I'm at Gulf Coast Phonology Trail, which is located. Pam, I'm gonna let you go right now. I've got to get these dogs out of the way. They're too noisy. I'll be right back.
So Erin, I'm going to open up the Nature's Notebook page and kind of follow along that way. You're going to share some information that way. Is that right?
I'll share my screen in a minute here.
Okay.
So if you want to follow along that way, then you can do that. Or if you want to do the same thing on your own computer, that's fine too.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so I was just saying, can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just saying that I'm with the Gulf Coast Phonology Trail, which is located between on the state line of Alabama and Mississippi through southeastern Louisiana.
Oh, wow.
So what else was I supposed to say?
Well, if you want to share just like any updates, stuff that's happening recently, what you're working on, anything like that.
Okay, well, I'm just finishing up our last report for 2020 and just trying to get out in the field and see what's going on since COVID is not such a factor right now in some of the locations. So that's just getting out and doing that. So that's about it.
So I'm from here in Phoenix, and I have my own backyard phonology program, Cicadaology, for tracking cicadas. And so they do come up in the monsoon season, and usually I notice them or I hear them July 1st. And I have seen some emerge in past years before July 1st, but so that's kind of how I track the monsoon season, not by the humidity numbers, but by the cicadas. So, and then we have a phonology walk at our extension office that I've been able to tag the plants, and a new plant was added or replaced. So that's basically all I've done. And as our extensions just really been opening up recently. So that's really about all I've been doing.
That's great. Which plants are you tracking there?
We have the desert natives, the milkweed, and the saguaro, two creosotes, and an ironwood tree, and two barrel cactus. So they're pretty basic, and because the walk's been abandoned pretty much since it's been closed, they're struggling a bit, even though they're desert adapted, but I think they'll be okay. We did replace one milkweed, I believe, and so it's hopeful.
Yeah, I hope that our desert plants here are able to withstand all this drought. But yeah, they do look pretty sad out there. A lot
Yeah.
of them.
So that's all I have.
Okay, well, welcome. So yeah, I thought I can show what we have on the website. I don't know if you both are probably semi-familiar with what we have there, but let me share my screen. So we have the education menu here, and there are two different parts to this. So the education program has basically, it's a compilation of different resources that we have, and it's separated out by age group. So if you are working with a particular set of grades, you can come on here and follow these links, and then it's kind of a broad overview of kind of our ideas for how you might use Nature's Notebook or do phenology with that age group. And then we also have, this is pulled from the bigger list of Nature's Notebook activities that we have, but these are filtered for that grade level. So this would be probably the place to start if you're interested in a particular age group of students. This is where I would recommend going. And so we have a lot on here. There are also different planning activities. If you want to do something with a class and it's not, you can't find something in this list here, this table that's really suitable. We have a couple of planning worksheets that will help you kind of think through what are you hoping to have your students learn, and then talk you through like different ways to get there. So I invite you to use those resources. And we have different ones for, you know, the different grade levels. So here for the high school age, we have other resources in the table here that you can look at. We have had a couple that have kind of emerged recently through this Project Eddie. Are either of you familiar with that?
No.
I hadn't heard of it either. It seems like what it is like a platform to host lesson plans. And so we've found a couple of them recently that have some, they're more recent lesson plans or ways to engage students in using the Viz tool. A couple of them are focused on things you can do remotely. So, and I think a lot of these were designed for undergraduate classrooms, but they could also be used with high school students. And there's some good ideas in here. And then various resources, slide decks, and worksheets and rubrics and things like that that you can download. So that's there. So aside from these different pages that we have to kind of walk you through what we recommend for these different grade levels, we also have this other part of the menu here that's the full list of Nature's Notebook activities. And we set up this page so that you can filter it in different ways. So you have your grade level, and this is what that other page uses. You know, it's the high school page. It's just filtering for this and putting those onto the table that's at the bottom. But there's also other filters. If you know that you definitely want something that's, you know, you could use for a tabling event, something that would be an actual lesson plan, an activity, and then you can also say whether you want it to be indoor or outdoor. So let's say we wanted to have something with middle schoolers that we can do outdoors, and it would be a really quick, just a 30-minute activity. And we can put all those filters in and apply, and it will reduce our list here to just show you those. So it's kind of a nice resource for picking out different things. So if you had like a tabling event or a field trip or something where you wanted to have a short activity, this would be a good way to find that. And then each of these different activities or resources on here has its own page that tells you a little bit about what's in it. And then it's either usually a slide deck or a Word document or a PDF that you can download that has more details. So this one is a PDF, so it should just open up, and then it'll have different things that you can use to know kind of what's involved and how to set it up and what to expect at the end of it. So any questions about that?
No, thank you. That's really neat. We have, my friend has a little boy. I'm not having much luck getting anybody, any other activity from adults, but her son is interested and he's 11. So it's really helpful to know that this is already out there. So it'll be really helpful. Thanks.
Yeah. So yeah, what I was hoping to hear from you is really, is there anything that is missing? Like, have you had times when you were working with youth and you realized that like you didn't have a particular resource? Maybe it was like, I wish I had a guide for how to do this thing, or a different version of something that we already have. Has anything like that come up where it was a specific thing that you wished you had at the time?
Not for me yet. So this will be my first time working with a youth, so I'll keep my notes.
Okay. What about you, Gail?
One of the things that we worked with eighth graders and then community college students. And with eighth graders, I think just having, since we did our activities mostly outside, was to have everything set up and have the number of volunteers we needed. But I certainly gave the information about the educational resources to the teacher.
Mhm.
So that was, I think for her, it was very helpful. And
So did she use this page? Do you know?
I sent it to her. Yeah, I don't know if she
Okay.
used a particular one, but I know that, we used that. And of course we did, I think it was the bingo page when we did our tabling events. And that was really fun for the kids.
Great.
So those were just to get them interested. And, the big thing is, start observing and seeing the changes. And that was helpful. So these are really good for the teachers, I believe.
Good. Yeah. Yeah, there's probably will be hard to find now, but there was an activity that's nice that, and you can also do control to select more than one thing too. Control and then click if you want to have more than one of these tags. But there's a nice outdoor activity. It's this one, observation station. That's just kind of generally about noticing things, and you don't have to use the data sheets or anything like that. It's really for any age group, but it's just kind of a nice way to let people start paying attention to the things around them, and writing down what they see or they smell, or maybe they touch different plants. So that's kind of a nice introductory resource.
Okay.
Yeah, and then with the community college students there, it's probably more appropriate to have them start using the data sheets. But have you had any experience with that and like kind of introducing them to phenology?
Well, the one time I spoke to a biology class, the instructor wanted me and just kind of left it to me. It's like, I thought I was just so I just kind of took over and for that class and describe the whole idea behind Nature's Notebook and how to observe and how to use the phone app. So that was the main thing. And I had only that one opportunity to do that. But, things are always in flux or change, some of these colleges, community colleges.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you can tap into one or two really interested people, and I certainly did. I had a student who was really interested in it, and she stuck with observing for a couple of years off and on, but she really was interested in it. So you don't know if you can just tap into somebody.
Mhm.
That's really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, for higher education too, we also have a couple nice examples. Let's see if I can find them. Where are they? Oh, it's linked in here. Semester long program ideas. And we've had a couple faculty members who've had a lot of luck in doing this over the course of a semester, because especially for either semester really, but in the spring, it's nice to be able to kind of start off at the beginning of the year with introducing phenology and kind of talk about what it means and all the different applications. And then you can have your students start recording data. And then over the course of, a couple months, they can see a lot of changes happening, in a lot of parts of the country where they'd be able to see a tree go from having nothing on it and being dormant to having the breaking leaf buds and maybe the flowers. And so it's a nice way for them to have that hands-on experience of documenting those changes. So these are 3 different faculty members who have used Nature's Notebook in different ways at different schools, colleges. So you can look at those if you need examples of different ways that you can do that.
Erin, I'm just wondering, do we have a program on after a fire? And how things are after a prescribed fire, what can happen very quickly? I think that might be something students might be interested in, because they see nothing. And then all of a sudden, if they come back within a week, then they'll see growth and things coming back that they, just would assume was not going to live.
Yeah, no, we don't. I don't think we have anything like that. I like that idea. I was really thinking it could be like a lesson plan or an activity where a fire has happened. And so there's some background information on what that means for plants, different plants. And then they would have the experience of going out and looking at the site.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, that's a great idea.
It might be something we might pursue with, we know we've got some educators, Becky Lacombe and Melissa Perez with the Fish and Wildlife Service, if they would be interested in doing that.
Yeah.
Somehow we can figure out how to convince them it was their idea. So,
yes.
That's something we're going to hand them, but
yeah.
End up with Melissa and just talk about Melissa Perez that, we had this Zoom meeting today and just wonder if that's something, maybe they've even done it. Maybe that's something we could add if they have.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that there
I'll
are.
ask her that. Did you have a program on for students after fires?
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I'm sure there are resources out there more generally about what happens post-fire, and the importance of prescribed burning. But we don't have it in the phenology context, so I think that would be really interesting. And if they can help with that, that would be great. A lot of our resources on here are developed by educators. A lot of them are part of local phenology programs. So it's really helpful for us to be able to leverage all of you all and your great thoughts and wisdom on this stuff.
Well, what I may do is say, do you have an observation program that we could add to your programs? Let's start with that. Maybe they do.
Yeah, a lot of those, like the refuges and the national parks have a lot of field trips that come through. And so often they do have to have kind of something for the students to do. And sometimes if they have a nice visitor center, it's just like walking the kids through different activities. But yeah, it seems like maybe they would have some other things for outdoors too. And maybe there's something related to post-fire.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be great.
Check.
Yeah, so the last thing I wanted to show on here is another place you can find some resources, and that is, let's see, make sure I'm looking in the right place. This one here. So this is on the phenology program resources on the for groups menu, and it is the event resources. And so this is it's kind of the same, a lot of the same resources are on here, but they're just organized in a little bit different way. So if you know that you have a specific event that you're doing, and maybe it's a workshop or it's a tabling event where you need to have something that's hands-on for people to do and they come and visit your table or your booth, then you can come here. And so this is organized by workshop materials that are kind of before the workshop, what you might want to send out to people. Like if you're doing a Nature's Notebook training, and you want to give them a flyer on how to sign up for Nature's Notebook, So everyone is registered before the event. We have all that here. Then we have also resources on if you want them to join your local phenology program or your Nature's Notebook group before the event. This is also instructions on that, so you can send that out. And then we have this organized for the actual workshop by indoor and outdoor, either presentations or activities. So you can pull from those, and it tells you kind of the length of time that those take. And then this section here is the kind of tabling resources. So things that you might want to have that you print out to have available to kind of share information about phenology with people who might want to come by and learn about it and maybe get further involved with signing up for Nature's Notebook later. And then just some other various resources like our logos and some flyers and things like that. So.
Can you show me, can you go back to the link to show me what it said to invite people to join before the event?
Yeah, for your joining your group?
Yes.
Yeah, so this one here, so that is, oh, that doesn't work. Well, that's good to know.
Oh.
I will fix that link, but this is, it should be a link to a PDF that's, it's just instructions like, you go to create an account and you put in your username and your password, and then you go to the partner groups, and then you pick your group from the box and check the box and then hit save. And then it also tells them if they're already registered with the Nature's Notebook account,
Okay.
if they, how they can go in and then add themselves to a group, you know, if they already have an account.
Okay.
So I'll fix that link.
Alrighty.
Yeah. So that's all that I wanted to share. I guess the other thing that I was wondering about that would be great to hear from both of you is other resources that you use in working with youth that aren't maybe Nature's Notebook related that you found really helpful. Because sometimes it's nice for us to know about, you know, other things that really work well, so that we can see how they're doing it, you know, if it's another program or just a resource, and we can try to integrate that into what we're doing here. Do you have any examples? That...
I don't accept the mother, my friend. She does try to give me stuff to use, but so far we haven't really done a whole lot because of the heat. So
Yeah,
I just plan on using Nature's Notebook. It's really a great program. I'm glad you have these calls because it keeps me it brings me back when, you know I need to take a look and focus on a certain issue, a certain area. So it's really helpful. I really appreciate it. And it's just an extensive, there's so much information. There is I do use sometimes just like grid sheets for drawing and something like that in a larger scale, but that's about it.
okay. Like a kind of like graph paper?
Yes, well, even like the backdrop of your screen right there, just the grid. And
Yeah.
so, but it's a larger scale for little hands, and so we've used that. But
Oh, okay.
Now, one of the things that I use is what I have used is to look at the classroom book that the students are using to see.
Oh, okay.
There's something here that we can, you know, not improve on, but to add to. So, and when I was working with Sean, that's what we would do. I'm trying to think what else. I guess if there's any way to relate to the curriculum needs of the students, the science objectives, to kind of use, if you know that, if you can look online to get that information, so you can, you know, make sure that you can tick off that list that we're covering that by having this field trip. I think Sean did that when she was getting permission to have the class outdoors.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, if you can have access to that, that would be great.
I should probably pay more attention to what the mom gives me because she does homeschool, And so we have a huge homeschool group over here, and they have it's a great program, the program they use for homeschooling. So I think I'll take a look at that then a little closer.
Yeah, definitely leverage other resources that are out there that you have access to. Yeah, and another thing with working with especially the younger grade levels, I think sometimes, especially some of the plant protocols can be pretty complicated. So just keep in mind that all the questions are optional and we don't have the ability to create like a shorter data set or data sheet for you, but you can always just give instructions on doing only a portion of those, or if you print out the data sheets, you could mark out, which ones you don't want them to worry about. Or we've had some groups that will actually, they'll kind of take our screen caps of the data sheet and then in PowerPoint or another program, kind of like clip off some of them. So they only show maybe like the basics like leaves, open flowers, and bright fruits to kind of keep it really simple. And it takes a little bit of, clipping and copying and stuff like that to create it yourself. But we have had people do that. And that's fine to do, as long as you don't alter the questions or the definitions that we have. If you're just using a subset of the questions, then it's still the exact same data sheet that we're having everyone use. So it's still really valuable data.
Okay.
So are there any topics that you would like us to cover in future months?
I'm thinking, I'm sure something will come to mind. I guess maybe getting graduate students interested in using the data. How to we do that? Examples. And maybe not even graduate students, but maybe if a student has a special need or needs to do an internship program, how we can make that happen.
Yeah, like that. I was planning on next month, we have climate data that we import from DayMet, which is a data type that uses gridded data. So it extrapolates from weather stations across the country and makes a complete data set for the whole country. That's these little pixels. And then we pull that into the visualization tool and the data download tool, and then associate the data that you have, the phenology data based on your lat long with whatever pixel that falls into. So it'll give you a suite of different climate variables for your particular site, which is nice because you don't have to do it yourself. If you're interested in whether your phenology was impacted by like the previous winter temperature or the amount of rainfall, you can pull all that in with your data.
We missed you. You froze.
Oh no. Okay.
Yeah, you froze at some point, so we probably missed some of what you said. It's a nice picture though.
Oh boy. Okay. Yeah, my internet's been glitchy all morning. So I think what I was saying was I don't know if you missed when I was talking about how the climate data is gridded. So the data that we get is basically a big grid with a bunch of little pixels. And so it matches up the lat longs from your phenology data with that pixel and then gives you the data that are for your location, basically. So you could look at how your phenology data lines up with like the previous winter temperature or the amount of rainfall that year or the accumulated heat. And it just makes it easier for you to compare that and see if there's a potential relationship. And we get the data from the previous year about halfway through the current year. So we're about to import the 2020 climate data. So I thought next month we could go through how you look at that data and maybe some of the ways you can start to look at the connections between different climate variables and the phenology data. So that's my plan for next month, unless I hear a lot of other ideas. But I do like the idea of figuring out how we can get more students or other people to use the data too. We've long had this dream of connecting up our local phenology programs with scientists. So we're trying to get scientists that need data to know that they can get data from you guys. And so they could, pull the data they need. And then you guys would have someone to analyze the data for you and tell you what the patterns are. So maybe that will fit into that conversation.
Okay, right. Okay, good. That would be helpful.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah. So I think we can, unless you guys have anything else, and it doesn't have to be related to working with youth, but any other questions or anything. Gail and I are going to touch base on a couple things with the Gulf Coast Phenology Trail, but I don't know if Pamela, if you have anything else, any other questions or concerns or anything.
So if I don't have a whole lot of data, then are we able to view just the temperatures and the humidity from year to year? Is that an option? I can't remember if that's an option that we can view on Nature's Notebook or not, just comparing like 5 years of temperature changes and rainfall and something like that.
Yeah, that's a good question. So not exactly. What we do have, let me share my screen again. We do have some climate related maps. So you would still go into the Viz tool for that. And so let's see. One way to answer that, you could look at, if you want to see just information about the accumulated heat, what's your zip code?
85302.
So you type in your zip code here, and that
Okay.
will pull up a graph that shows you basically how much accumulated heat has there been this year, how does that compare to last year, and how does it compare to a 30-year average? So that would be one way, but that's just specifically the temperature accumulation.
Okay.
And that the way this is calculated, it's based on having a base temperature. And the one we have as the default here is 32 degrees, which is freezing. And so it's telling you any day where it was above freezing, how many degrees was it above freezing? And then you add all those days up, all the degrees from all those days since January 1st. And it gives you this like amount of heat basically. So that's one way to kind of get a sense of whether the amount of heat that's accumulated this year is unusual, or ahead or behind schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're looking at here, this is, starting from January 1st on the left all the way up to today, mid-June over here on the right. And the y-axis is the amount of accumulated heat, the values here. And so 2021 is a blue line. So this shows you early on in the year, it was kind of behind. So it's lower in terms of the level of the amount of heat. And then we kind of catch up here around early April. And actually we accumulated more heat than the average for a little bit of time here. And then we've gone more above the average, which is the black line is the average. And so as of today, we are at, let's see. So 2021, if you look at the legend that's on the left over there, we're 4 days ahead of schedule compared to that 30-year average. And then the little red line here is the forecast. So in 6 days, we'll still be 5 days ahead of schedule. And then the yellow line is showing last year. So it's showing that even though we're a lot ahead of the average, which is, it's actually 1981 to 2010 is the average here, which is kind of like a lot of the climate change years that have been really warm. But last year, the yellow line is kind of the same as this year. So if you want to compare it to what happened last year, we're kind of on track with how it was. If you compare it to how it used to be a decade or more ago, we're a lot ahead, 5 days ahead.
And so is that climate change like for just my zip code, right? So like if we've had a lot, so here in Glendale, we are like exploding with population and buildings. Is that like local climate change then? Is that considered local?
It could, yeah, this is based on the pixel that your zip code falls into. So you could look at a zip code that's like out in a more rural or undeveloped area and see if the pattern holds. You can also, if you pick a different visualization type, you can look at the map of like what is behind that graph by going to the daily temperature accumulations map.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is showing this year here, but if we want to look at, let's see, the daily anomaly, which is the information that's behind that, that graph that we were looking at.
Mm-hmm.
This shows you, and we can zoom in to Arizona here, which locations or pixels are a lot ahead of average. So that's this year compared to that 1981 to 2010 period.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the dark orange, red colors, whereas the bluish are behind as of today. And this map changes every day because, you know, if we got really cold, all of a sudden it would be less heat accumulated. But yeah, it looks like there are a couple little patches in here. You know, you can see, I don't know if you're familiar with like what this area is. Maybe this is a higher, like a little mountain area. But there are patches that are behind this year, whereas Phoenix is pretty dark. Although I mean, this is really dark too. And I don't know if this is a low area. We could zoom in more, I guess, but this will kind of give you a sense.
Yeah, that probably is like Maricopa. So it's a flat open desert, basically. And but yeah, the other blue up on the top, maybe like Wickenburg. Yeah, so it's next to Waddell. So Wickenburg is it's more a desert area. Mm-hmm.
We can turn the map colors down a little bit if you want to see what's under it a little bit easier.
Sure.
So yeah, Santa Cruz, I'm not really familiar with this area, but yeah, Maricopa is here.
Oh, there it is. Yeah.
So this is, it looks like kind of an area around one of the mountains there on the western part of, southwestern part of the city.
Yeah, Kamatki is, and St. John's is an Indian reservation. And so there's basically no buildings there. But that is a mountain range, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and this is happening, the same thing over here where it's really hot around this mountain here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all built up. Those are a lot of new homes. And so I was just, you know, because the cicadas, I've noticed a high intensity sounds, you know, I mean, so there's a lot of them on certain years, but just recently, for one reason or another, there really hasn't been a whole lot. And I didn't know about if encroachment was like a main issue or if it was something else. And so, you know, I was just kind of concerned of that because I love the cicadas and I always wish them well. So, but
yeah, we don't have this kind of information for precip, although we're thinking about doing something like that. You know, we have our buffalo grass maps, which is just it's an accumulated precipitation over a 24-day period, but it doesn't have any comparison of how this year might be different than previous years. So I don't know if that would be useful. But that's another category where you would change this instead of the temperature accumulation to the pheno forecast. And then you pick the forecast. And so we have a bunch of insect pests in here and then buffalo grass. Oh gosh, that doesn't look right. I don't know why maybe I need to refresh it. Okay, I'm gonna refresh it. It was like maintaining one of the other maps there. So I'm gonna go back and do map. So the category is the pheno forecast. And then we would pick the buffalo grass. There we go. So nothing has happened yet, but this is showing how much rain has accumulated in the previous 24 days. And nothing has right now anywhere. But once it does, you would get little pixels that are green on this map based on being either up to an inch of rain or no, and 1 inch to 1.7 inches would be a light green, and then more than 1.7 is a darker green. And those represent how likely it is that the buffalo grass in that pixel is green. So this map, we made this to help managers know the best time to get out to treat different areas. So hopefully, you know, if it's kind of far away, they don't have to go drive out to those places and find out that, no, it's not green enough yet. They can use this as kind of a guide. So this is the only precipitation related map that we have right now.
Yeah, we have an issue with stinkweed, which used to be called globe chamomile, and it was all over 2 years ago, but we didn't have enough rain to cause the seedlings to sprout. So we virtually have no no sightings. I mean, I see it in certain areas that people water, but other than that, there's not a huge widespread area of stinkweed. So that's good news.
Yeah, maybe that'll help people get on top of it. I know it's definitely a big emerging weed. So yeah. Well, that's one good part about the drought, I guess, is maybe it'll help managers.
We did have rain here in Glendale 2 nights ago, but it wasn't really rain. It was just some sprinkles and
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the way this map works is it say we got a big rain today and it fell into this 1.7, we got a huge storm. It wouldn't be until 2 weeks from now that we would see that show up as this is treatable, because it does take a couple weeks for the buffalo grass to respond to that. So yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah,
that's good to know.
Yeah, anything else?
I'm good.
I'll just make one comment, which is not really related to anything, but except cicadas. I don't know if you saw, we had a little article in the paper about a woman who's a professional photographer who set up cicadas in little dioramas. So she did it with her daughter to get her to feel comfortable around the insects, and she had them lined up as if they're going to a COVID vaccination clinic. I think the Washington Post reported this article about the photographer. So yeah, that worked out. I mean, she's got her daughter interested and how to set it up. They have beach scene, and so I guess I've heard those cicadas when President Biden has been speaking. You can hear them in the background. I think it was at Arlington Cemetery. It's going to heard that buzz. I said, those are cicadas. So I know they're not the same species, but they're pretty remarkable animals.
Yeah.
Yeah, they emerged in the eastern part. They emerged, well, here in Arizona. Apparently there's an emergence of a certain type of cicadas that are underground for 13 to 17 years. And those are different cicadas. So here in Arizona, ours come up every year. And
I got you.
And so they're underground for 2 to 4 years. So, but they do look quite a bit different. I mean, different characteristics. And so, but yeah, they get very loud, and you can definitely hear, I'm listening for them every day now because they do emerge here in Arizona. They call them swamp cicadas too, or citrus cicadas, but so usually around, they're not quite sure if the monsoon brings them or the cicadas bring the monsoon,
Yeah. I wish that dew point is closer into the 50s, right? Yeah, I'm excited about the Palo Verde beetles. Those are one of my favorites.
Ooh.
They're this huge beetle, and they're terrible flyers, and they just kind of like careen into things, and sometimes they'll walk you on the head, but that's always a sign of the monsoon for me.
Oh, okay.
I think they spend at least 4 years underground too, in these huge white grubs that sometimes we'll find if we dig in the yard.
Yeah, I'm a volunteer at the extension for the plant help desk, and so I'm sure we'll get some questions about that, but just researching them to answer their questions is a lot of fun. And I love bugs, but yeah, we've had a few, and I can see holes when I'm in certain areas, but yeah, they're very, just any advice is to turn off your porch light so they don't fly at your porch door, for one.
Yeah. I've definitely seen them in the carport a lot.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for joining us. I think, Gail, do you want to stay on for a couple minutes and
Sure, that's fine.
And I'll let you
Okay,
go.
well, thank you, and I'll see you again.
Okay, thanks, Pamela.
Nice to meet you, Laura.
Nice to meet you, Pamela.
Bye-bye.